Gather round, friends. It's time for Officials' Tales. Hosted by three retired sports referees that coaches throughout Northern Ohio knew as the Three Blind Mice. They are authors of the book called Officials' Tales. So let's meet the authors and your hosts, Jimmy Borgia, Rick Hall, and Don Nardecchia for today's edition of Officials' Tales. Now here's your host, Rick Hall.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for our latest episode of Officials' Tales. Tonight, we're going to go over a little shout out for our heroes for Memorial Day, which was just yesterday. And we're going to go over a little bit of our book, the Bowling Green Southview Squabble, which was quite a fiasco. So, without further ado, let me bring on my partners in crime. Hey, Don, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Rick. How are you?
Well, enjoying the weather, trying to get some stuff done before it gets, I have a feeling it's going to be one of those summers where it's like, cool, and sweating your,
and when it gets hot, it'll get real hot.
Yeah. And I don't want to be outside doing shit then, I can tell you that.
Yeah, Mother Nature kind of played a trick on us down here today. All that really heavy weather that's been going through Kentucky and Tennessee and upper Mississippi and Alabama. By the time it gets here, all the nastiness is blown out. But we had a lot of wind yesterday, not much rain. Rain last night, light rain this morning, and 61 degrees, I think, is our high today. Now, it's supposed to be back up to 74 tomorrow, but boy, this one-day cold spell, it takes us back to what we're normally like in March.
Right. Yeah, I was like, it's been like that here, overcast. I mean, we had sun for a day and a half for my grandson's baseball tournament, which he won. Shout out to Carter. Great game. Great tournament. But, yeah, it was, man, yesterday was nice, and Sunday was nice. But Saturday, I was like, it's one of those where I swear I wish I would have gotten those heated, folding chairs you take. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, those are for old people. I'm like, hello. I need one of them. And this lady that was sitting in front of me, which was absolutely hilarious, she not only had a heated one, she had one that cooled too. I'm like, what?
Sounds like she may be a soccer mom too.
Oh yeah,
Grandma.
Yeah. Traveling mom,
Yeah.
They've been in traveling ball a while, so they do a lot of sitting. But I was like, wow, I never even seen anything like this. And I've been looking at the ones for the stadium, the stadium seats where you sit in the bleachers, and they got them now that do massage and everything else. I'm like, Jesus, I need me some of that stuff. But anyway, hey, before we get too much further, let's get in our one-eyed rehab partner. Hey, Jimmy, you one-eyed rehab, SOB, whatever.
I swear to God, I hear more of the weather report on our podcast than I do on the TV.
Yeah, but ours is accurate.
Is your TV hooked up?
No. Are you guys meteorologists now?
Well,
what's this? What's this heated seat stuff, man? Come on.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's awesome.
Hell, wasn't that damn cold out?
Well, I was sitting there, and she was like sitting right in front of me, and I never seen anything like it. And it said, Midland, I think. And I looked it up, and I was like, what the hell? It's heated on one side, cool, and it literally does it. And hey, dig this, it's got a charging pack for your phone. What the fuck? I'm like,
why don't you get one of them bubbles and you can watch the game from inside the bubble?
There was one of them at the game Saturday.
Was it?
Making fun. Yeah, this lady was behind us watching the game from her bubble. She was back there snoring. I was like, what the? She was inside like this little plastic see-through tent-like thing.
Oh,
hell. Oh, my Lord have mercy.
Jim's talking about about that can't handle it being cold. There was one show, I don't know how far back it was, we were talking about Jimmy never wanting to be a football referee.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
two-time, right? All-state
Yeah.
receiver.
Yeah.
Two-time All-State
Uh-huh.
receiver at St. Paul, and I don't go out in that cold, that rain to referee football. It's just like
Maybe they called you. Hey, maybe they called you Bush for another reason. Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well,
We'll
let's
let your
not get into
imagination
that.
go with that.
Let's not get into that. So anyway,
Yeah.
as I said at the beginning of the show, I want to bring up what we posted yesterday as a shout out to the for the Memorial Day and all our veterans, really. And I know that you know, it's not about just the service; it's about who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I know Don actually served, uh, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And my family, I had a lot of people in my family that served, and my nephew unfortunately ended up with two Purple Hearts, and he's doing okay, but I'm very concerned about the long term effects of what happened to him over there in Fallujah. So, and then of course Jimmy and his father and stuff that is listed out here. But I wanted to tell everybody that did serve, that has people that serve, and the Gold Star parents, that our hearts and minds are with you, and we salute everybody that has served, and we give our heartfelt thanks to everything you've done for this country. So, and leading into that, Don actually Susie sent me a video of Mr. Nardecchia, and
Mister.
we're gonna take that and add that to the stage here,
Mister.
and we're gonna pause it here, and I'm gonna let Don narrate as we go. So Don, take it over.
well, this was on May 17th on a Saturday. We decided to go up to Greenville and watch the Greenville Drive, which is a Class A minor league team under the Boston Celtics, or not the Boston Red Sox, not the Celtics,
Not
the
our
Boston
Bach.
Red Sox
Yeah,
farm
yeah.
team. And if you look in the center of the picture, the very right edge, as the video started here, I asked Rick to stop it. That is the Green Monster of Greenville, and because they're a Red Sox farm club, they set this stadium up just like Fenway Park, and so they've got the Green Monster out there, and down the right field line they've got a pesky pole that like 220 feet down there. That if you can curve one around that pole, you get a real cheap home run. So it's kind of a fun little stadium and a nice brand of ball. And go ahead, yeah, Rick, you can start that up now. When we were outside the stadium, a gentleman came up and asked me if I had served in military, and I said, yeah, I have. And we talked a little bit, and he said, well, listen, today is our salute to the troops. It was a weekend game closest to Memorial Day. They weren't home over the Memorial Day weekend. But he said, would you like to be, as a veteran, would you like to be an honorary captain for the drive? Go out, talk to with the umpires and the opposing coach before the game. And I thought about it for about 2 seconds, and I said I absolutely would love it. And so Susie got to come down there and take video of it. Now, you see in the picture there is a guy taking video, and that, of course, that was up on the scoreboard. But Susie was trying to focus in on this and not let the camera go. But it was very nice. I spoke with Liam, the coach of the drive, and I asked him, well, how are these two young guys officiate for you so far in the series? And he kind of went, well, and I said, I get the picture. So we're out there, and he was good enough. He introduced me to the opposing manager there and to both umpires, and we all shook hands, and the coaches questioned me about my officiating experience, and And so we're getting ready to break it up here and go. But it was a lot of fun, and I wish both umpires well in their pursuit of getting to the bigs. And so here we come off, still talking about everything but the game about to come up until right there, the handshake, and wish him good luck. But it was a fun thing to do, being back on a real baseball field again, and probably for the last time. But I felt being cordial and everything, and I just felt very honored with as many veterans as were there. That I was the one that they stumbled upon and asked to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes it's a blessing to be able to do things, and it's great when you get an opportunity like that. You take it, and it's just it's funny how God sets us up for some stuff, and hopefully this will be out on the show, and people will see it and give other veterans a chance to do things like that and be part of. And I know us, we as officials, we always did that. We always made an extra effort to include people that most people would either not even think about or not include. And everybody from old guys to little people. I know Jimmy was the king of handing the ball to the little folks on the sideline, and that was one of his big deals. And I tell you, I know I'm speaking for all of us, but I know we all feel the same when it comes to things like that and giving back to the community. So, you got anything, Jim?
Hey, I did a couple of grandmothers too. The night we were over at Clyde and Edison was playing them, and we had a timeout, and I had the ball. And I, looking at this older woman in the front row, I said, "Have a grandson out here," and she pointed him out, and well, she said his name first. I don't know the players by their names. Give me a number. Yeah, I knew that he was in and out like a sixth or seventh man, and I said, I'll say hello to you, to him from you. She said, "That'd be all right." And then all of a sudden, this girl comes down and says, "Hey, can we get a picture with the ball?" And I handed her the ball and let him take a picture of it and everything, and went back out. The warning buzzer sounded, and 2 minutes later, the grandson come in. He was taking the ball out of bounds just before I handed it to him. I turned around and I said, "Grandma wanted me to tell you hi." And he kind of looked at me like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I turned around and I pointed her out right there in the front row, and I said, "She told me to tell you hi." So,
Man, oh man, you might want to rephrase that though. You did say that you did a couple of grandmas once, so we do have an
I had
adult
what?
audience.
Yeah,
We do have an
he did
adult
give me a
audience.
spot to get in there.
Not that I mean, yeah. But anyway, so let's go from the good stuff to the crazy stuff. So we're going to get to our book reading now, which we've been doing here off and on. And this story, unlike a lot of stories, wasn't just happenstance. It could have been diverted at many stages. However, as you will hear from us, reading directly from the book, boy, it didn't go the way you think it goes. So now I'm going to paraphrase some of this because it is a long story. So the story begins at Bowling Green, or at Southview High School, with visiting Bowling Green. It's about an hour drive for us as a group, so we got together and drove like we always do. And Don and Jim and I were fortunate enough to know Larry Morrison from, I believe it was the Toledo Rocket Summer League, right? Isn't that where we met him?
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green. Bowling Green. Okay. All right, and he got us in, and we always seem to get these fun games for some reason, especially these two teams from this league, which As you'll hear, neither coach cared much for one another. And so, uh, as I said, this is like the second time that we had these guys. And it was one of those things where the first time we had them, just to give you a little preface, it was we were we were at Bowling Green, right? The first time we had them was at Bowling Green, or was it? No, it was at Southview still. And the first time we had, we came off the floor and we were in the locker room, and we were waiting, and they came and got us in 3 minutes, and we were back there, very close to where Bowling Green was being dressed, and they escorted them out at the same time. We get to the floor, and the play clock had stopped at 3 minutes and change. I can't remember, and the dance team was still on the floor. Well, that kind of lit the fuse on the Bowling Green coach, and he has a very short fuse to begin with, and he started ranting and raving. They can't do that. You guys should tee him up, and I said, what are we going to tee him up for? Excessive entertainment, I mean, I don't know what we're supposed to do here. I don't think we have any coverage here. So, but it was one of those things that went on, and let's just basically, we called it the Hatfield and McCoy type feud. It was that kind of ugly. So let's see here. Let's get to where we're at. So the game is really good. Now they do the freshman, the JV, and the varsity all on the same night. And we knew Gillespie, who was the athletic director. I knew him from New London, and he said, "Yeah, everything's going to be fine. I'm not going to be there. I've got somewhere to be." So no problem. So we sit there and we get there. Freshman's done. JV's clicking right along. We get in. We start our game. We're clicking right along, and we're feeling like, boy, oh boy, we're going to be fine. We're going to get out of here. We're going to be at Frickers at 9 or a little bit after. And, and then we come out for the second half. Yes, that's when the wheels started coming off. We walk out, and the Bowling Green coach comes up to us and says, "Hey, there's something wrong with the rim that we're warming up on. It looks like it's been up." So I'm like, we get together at midcourt, and we're like, oh, some kid probably dunked it while we were coming out. They snapped the rim, so we start looking, and sure enough, it looks like it's elevated, like as if it would have snapped. So, we got together and we started looking around, and I'm gonna that part of the story I'm gonna stop, and I'm gonna let Don take over because he had the direct interaction with the coach and the rest, and then we'll let Jimmy finish off with what his input was that finally was the key to unlock the door, so to speak. So Don, you take it over from we went, something's wrong with the rim.
Okay, so I'll read from my section of the book on this because I try to be pretty in depth because as the referee that night, I was kind of the guy in the middle of the controversy. The first issue of the night happened shortly after we turned from halftime. The teams had switched baskets, as always, and the Bowling Green coach approached me and said that his captain thought the rim was not level, the rim that they're shooting at in the warm-ups before third quarter. He asked if we'd take a look and see what we thought. Now, I've never had that situation presented to me at a basketball game, and this was probably somewhere 32, 33 years of refereeing. So to me, it made sense first to walk to the center circle, look at one basket to see how the rim looked to my eye, and then turn from the exact center and look to the other basket and see if it looked the same. The problem here is that those baskets are 10 feet high, the rims are 10 feet high, and when you're looking, I'm a 6-foot person, so you take off about 5 inches, and I'm now my eyes are about 5'7" off the floor, trying to tell if something 10 foot is level. So you know what you're going to see from under the basket, you're going to see the front of the rim higher than the lower of the rim, back of the rim. It's going to look from underneath it. It's going to have that angle.
Exactly.
So I saw that front of the rim much higher at the end that Bowling Green was going to shoot at than the other end. So I called Rick over and I said, check this out here now and tell me what you see. Stand right here in the center of the center circle. Look at this basket. Just study the rim and what it looks like. Now study. Now turn and look the other way. What do you think? He goes, well, I think there is something wrong with it. We talked, and like Rick said, we thought maybe that day, during the day, some group was in there practicing and somebody grabbed the rim and pulled it down and the spring snapped it back into place, but not all the way into place, or snapped it and it over adjusted and didn't land right. Something there was wrong. So we knew that Glenn Marsh, the athletic director, was not going to be there that night. He had a game the night before, and he had a speech and debate sectionals or something going on in their auditorium that he had to be there for early morning. So he said, I think Rick had talked to him and said, who's in charge? He said, if you need anything, find the principal. And so that's what I went to do. And of course, the Southview coach saw something was going on. And so he came over and I said, is your principal here? He goes, yeah, he sits right over. And he pointed to his spine. He goes, well, he's not there right now. What's up? And I said, well, they don't think they came to me and said they didn't think the basket was level at their end. So we went out and he goes, oh boy, they got nerves to come in here and tell us our place isn't right after that dark dungeon they play in. Yeah. Yep. And so I said, well, Rick was out there with me and I asked him to look the same thing. And we both come to the conclusion there's definitely something different about their ring. We think that's the one that's at fault, not yours. He goes, well, we shot at that basket the first half. They should have to shoot at it the second. And I said, I understand, but by rule, if there's been presented to me that we're using a piece of equipment that's not correct or not right, that I cannot continue the game. I said, if we have a bad ball, that's easy, but this is going to take a little time. And so he says, I don't know where he is. He turned and walked away, no help or anything. So just shortly after that, in comes a gentleman with one of the big tall ladders that they used to cut the net down after the game. And he sets it up under there. And I said to the guy at scores table, I said, now who's this? He goes, that's the principal. I guess, well, evidently he'd heard what the problem was. So he goes up and we're kind of watching him. Rick and I, Jim's over hobnobbing with the Bowling Green coaches at the end of their bench. And he goes up and he's monkeying with the rim. The principal is.
Right.
We don't see any difference. And finally, Jim's down on the end line and he's giving us, hey, come here. And so we walk over there and that's when Jimmy pipes up. And he had a different look at it, standing on just off the baseline where he's looking right across at the basket. And it actually wasn't the basket at all. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd say because there was a fellow I was talking to, and he was wondering what the holdup was. And I said, well, the Bowling Green coach thought the rim was bent, and that's what we're checking right now. And he says, I don't think it's that. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, look, they must have raised the basket up, but they never let it come back down and lock into place. And when he said that, I looked at it, and that's when I tried to get Don and Rick's attention to come over and take a look. Hey, now you can take and get the principal. We need somebody that's got one of those keys to raise it and bring it back and let it set back into place. So
yeah, all those gyms have a winch type of thing
Yep.
on the side wall that's got a cable that goes up, and then down that way they can raise those baskets out of the way if they have another function in there, if it's something to do with music or some other sports are in there. And so that often happens after a game. They'll put them up, and then they'll bring them back down. But so that really became obvious it was the problem. So again, I go back to the coach, And I said to the coach, I said, the backboard's not set properly. That's why the rim looks bad. And so he's looking at me like, what are you going to tell me now? I says, we need to get a maintenance person so that they have the key to that. And he goes, oh, there's not one in the building. There's not one here tonight. And I said, listen, I work in a school. I know you cannot open a school building for any kind of function unless there's at least one personnel from that department, because they've got keys to get to anything in a case of emergency, etc. And he just, gave me one of these, and he turned, he walked away. Well, somebody got a hold of him, and he came in, he went over to the, put his key into this little switch that turns on the winch. He brought it up just a little bit, and then he turned it back, and down it came and set into place just right.
Yep.
So this guy's steaming up there and he didn't know his kids were playing at a bad basket.
No, we didn't either.
Okay. I have never looked at a basket, but I have, I did for the rest of the years we worked. I'd always glance at it. Usually right after we had captain's talk, and we're all out there. But anyway, I went over to him. First of all, we could speak with the Bowling Green coach, like two men could speak to each other. I said, Coach, the kids have been sitting a while. How much time you need to warm up? And he goes, 3-4 minutes. Whatever they want to do, I'm fine with. So I went down to him. I said, Coach, you got to have some warm-up time here. These kids been sitting too long through all this. How much you want? He goes, 4 minutes. I said, well, okay, we'll go 4 minutes. Then we'll have the horn to get you off, and then we'll treat it just like before a game. You've got a minute with the coaches, and then we'll start with the third quarter. He was not a happy camper. Now we've solved one problem, but the rest of the problems of the night seemed almost like they were trying to set a trap to screw us up, because we handled that real level-headed, and he certainly did not. And I think he knew it, so he was going to try and drag us down to his level of I don't know, just to his level of thinking for that night. He wanted to see a good argument so that the people thought he was getting the better of the situation. So we go till the fourth quarter.
Right.
One of the Southview kids was fouled, so he was at the free throw line, and he was going to shoot a couple, and he shot his first one. I don't remember what happened then, but Rick's got the ball, and at that time I see one of the Southview players get off the bench. Now, their bench was at their end of the floor where they were shooting, so all the attention was focused that end, and I was across from the benches, kind of even with the free throw line, and where I have a view of all that stuff happening at the scores table. So Rick's got the ball, and as Rick starts to bounce the ball to the shooter, I put my hand out quietly and just gave the big stop sign to the bench, the scores table, and the player there. But he went right up, never stopped. He just curled right onto the floor. So now his teammates got the ball, getting ready to shoot a free throw, and that goes up, and he missed, and I blew the whistle. Now, he missed the free throw, and we had a technical foul for the kid coming on the floor and had then thus being 6 players on the floor.
Yep, ineligible.
And a couple of things here. Players are not supposed to come on the floor until they're beckoned on. And so anyway, we had a miss there. We go down to the other end to shoot the technical fouls. So in high school, all technicals are 2-shot fouls. And so we go down and shoot those, and then we come back, put the ball play. Well, This coach was hollering at us about not administering the free throw right. Well, you let him in. Why do we have 6? I said, Coach, I stood out there just like a traffic cop. And I'm not going to yell because your kid's shooting a free throw to keep him off the floor. He comes right on the floor while your kid's in the motion is shooting. I'm not going to disturb the shot. We're going to we're going to see what happens with the shot, and then we'll do the technical foul. You guys have lost complete control of this game now. And it's like, now?
It's us.
Because your kid, because you sent him to the table late, he runs right through the stop sign and onto the floor. So unbelievable. And then, and from then every time they said something, we paid them no attention. Nope. I mean, usually I'll listen to what they're saying, and I think we even talked real quickly. It's no longer worth it to even look their way when they say something because they just want a technical now. And so we refuse to even look at them. Don't make a bad situation worse. We finished out the game. I'm pretty sure I remember, and I don't even care. I didn't care. I was wanting the game get over before something else stupid happened. I think Bowling Green won. So we get in the locker room, and we're talking about it. And I said, well, hey, yeah, Jimmy, you got something.
No, I'll cue him up. So before we go into the locker room part, Jimmy was at the table, all right? So it would have been his job to beckon him on, all right? So my thing is they didn't blow the horn, and he was right behind Jimmy, and he's only got one good eye. So he probably didn't even see him out of the other eye. So he had no idea that guy was even there. But I'm gonna let Jimmy defend himself. Go ahead.
No, that's not no, because when it happened, we called the shot. We had shot the first one, and for some odd reason, some of these teams they have this game going on. If I sub one, I'll sub to cover that guy and back and forth. Well, I was a good step or two away from the sideline. The Southview player went behind me, and I didn't see him. And next thing I know, I'm looking at Don. Don's got the stop sign. Like, what the hell's he? What's going on? Next thing you know, the player's out there. Now we got the thing, and the coach said, well, your partner waved him on. I said, Coach, I didn't see him. So I don't know how I could have waved him on if I didn't see him. So,
like I said.
Yeah, one good eye.
Yeah. See, he wasn't lying. Like that. He really wasn't lying.
Anyway, I told the guy, hey, the commissioner of the league should be made aware of what happened here. And I said, I'll send him a well-detailed report on this, and I'll have it for him. I went home and did it that night while I was still fresh in my mind, and then I read through it one more time the next morning and shipped it off to him. And he called me a little bit later in the day, and he said, from everything I see here, you guys handle it just the way I'd want you to handle it. It's that's why I like having you guys up here, because I know that you guys can handle stuff like that. He said, I will be getting a hold of the athletic director, and I will have a talk with the head coach about his lack of display of sportsmanship. And he said, I will get back to you after I talk to the AD on Monday morning, which he did. And the whole story. And the fact was that the athletic director got there probably like at 7:15, 7:30 in the morning, parked where he does out back, came in through that part of the building, which is not the educational part, but the athletic, and then over to the performing arts. And when he walked through the gym, he noticed that basket was not right. And when he left, after he left probably just before the freshman game was starting, he forgot. He didn't see a maintenance guy, so he forgot to stop and leave a message or look for one. And he knew it was, when he heard about this, he knew exactly what the problem was. So there we go. And just one other thing, because Larry Morrison liking guys from our association working up there. We wondered who was going to get the next
Rematch.
round when they play the second time, and I believe it was Mark King, Jimmy Yeager, and Troy Newsom from our association who are another really really good crew,
Mhm.
so I think one of them contacted me, if I remember right, just a little bit to see what happened, and I told him what caused it, and I said, so yeah, glad you guys are on it because I know you can handle it too. But that's you know, there you go. We're in our 32nd, 31st, 32nd year, Jimmy, somewhere there. Rick, you're over the 25 mark. That
Oh
first
yeah.
time anything's happened like that
Well,
with a rim not being right and nobody saying anything, especially through a half.
right,
No,
you're right.
yeah.
Well,
So maybe his kids shot well at that rim. I don't
maybe.
remember who was even winning and losing at halftime, but
I
I
don't know.
couldn't tell you.
But I will tell you though, with us, we don't just show videos of coaches and players going crazy and then comment. We've actually been there. We've been in there, and while Don was arguing with the Southview head coach, I was over at the table with the radio guys because they were like, "What the heck's going on?" We were rolling right along, and I'm like, "Well, we have a problem with the head coach. He's having a fit." And then right after everything got fixed, he was complaining, saying, "Well, we're gonna take rulers and all this shit when we go to Bowling
Levels.
Green. Yeah,
Levels.
levels and make sure everything is right." And so,
Yep.
this bad coaching stuff, it goes back quite a ways. And Glenn Gillespie's you know credit, he did send us a thank you, and he he just said, "I'm so sorry. I did see it. I screwed up." And so I, unfortunately, that's the way things are these days. It's not well, we talked about the last show. It's not like it used to be, where there was respect. I raised my hand when there's a foul call or whatever. And every time you go to a sporting event, there's always some idiot, and it's either a coach or a fan, or it's insane. And then they go, "Well, I don't know why we can't get sports officials." Well, shit, take a look around. I mean, that's just to
Yep.
say. But all that being said, I do want to give a shout out to this team. I wish I could remember their name, but they're from Pennsylvania. They're the team that my grandson beat for the championship. But their head coach was a third base coach. He was complimentary of both teams. If our kids made a good play, he was complimentary of them. He gave them nugs and stuff. I mean, we're talking U13. That's what you should be doing. And then one of the moms that were sitting in front of me, the one with the heated cold seat, she was like, "Wow, this is just odd. Nobody does this." And I said, "This guy's got the right philosophy." And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'll tell you what one coach told me a long time ago from a very successful football program. Winning isn't important until Friday night." He goes, "You give them fundamentals and make the fun in fundamentals, and you give those kids all the tools. And on Friday night, when the lights are brightest, that's when it all comes together." And guess what? That's what John Livengood did. And his teams were always in the playoffs. They won the state championship. Proof's in the pudding, boys. You get what you coach. And we just watched that video last, bad coaches, coaching bad, I think's the name of the series. I'm like, holy smokes. I just, and they go, "Well, you guys should be recruiting. Recruiting what? What do you want?" Because if you want guys like Don was talking about with the AAU that come in and work 16 games and all they're there is for the money, well, you can get all them you want. Or do you want
Mhm.
guys that are there because they want to give back to the community and do something for the kids? That's two different guys there.
Yep.
Absolutely, 100%. What do
Well, I
you
just
guys
want to
think of
say a
that?
couple of things. A couple of the situations that I was involved with the last couple of weeks. I mean, we mostly when we talk, we will mention a coach's name or a couple of coaches or something, but because these were obvious bad behavior,
Hmm.
we have mentioned no names. These things happen, oh gosh, 10, 12 years ago. So, those coaches are probably no longer. I know the one last week is no longer there. And I know, okay, you know what? I do know that the other coaches, the coach at Southview is no longer at Southview. We're not in this to, you know, bad speak anyone in particular. And again, people that aren't around Northwest Ohio that will recognize teams and schools and stuff based on where these stories are.
Sure.
My gist is that if you're not from around the area, you get the book, plug a local team or something in there to kind of live it, see it at their gym, at their football field or whatever. And that's what we wanted to do. We didn't necessarily do those stories because we don't like those coaches or we're against those
No,
coaches or anything.
no.
We just tell those stories to tell a story of what can happen, and for young officials or you don't have to be a young official. If you read this book, you'll find some of these situations pretty bizarre, but to us that the one today only happened one time, and
Yeah.
uh, I had 40 years in, and Jimmy, you had
39.
yeah. Rick, you're what 35?
35.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a lot of time there, and the only time we experienced it together. So there's something else that I heard this morning too that I just want to mention this. Rick, you're talking about your grandson. We were on the road this morning, and on the local talk show, talk radio here for Clemson, um, they talk to a sports psychologist, and lots of times they talk about uh, things for older kids, maybe high school kids and stuff
Sure.
about sport. But they had a good session on. The host has a 6-year-old son, and he's into everything, all the sports. And you hear kids around 9 or 10 starting to specialize. This sports psychologist had a great view on everything as far as what the kids want and how the adults can let them be their best form. The dad says, so what do you tell a kid that wants to be a basketball player? Instead of working on fundamentals, all he wants to do is shoot threes. And he says, well, you let them do it and don't dwell on the threes, but make sure they get time in on the rest of the game too, that they realize that there's more to it. But if he's going to keep scores of how many 3-point shots a 7-year-old kid can make, he's going to get real discouraged. Get him do it, praise him when he's doing things that he's doing well, that he should. And if you want to listen to that, I know other shows like that are available online, and the station is 105.5 The Roar is what it's known as here. That's their website. I just don't know if they use a decimal point between the fives. It would be 105.5 FM. So they're 105.5theroar.com. And in their programming, they'll have the show from today, the 27th. And this happened in the 7 o'clock hour at about 7:20. So I don't know if they pull their commercials out of that or what, but it's with Dr. Milt Lauder, who's one of the sports psychologists. He does work a couple of teams at Clemson, and he works with a lot of businessmen too about not just sports, but being the best version of yourself in management or whatever. So
Sure.
he's a pretty interesting guy. I'm usually headed for the side gig at Clemson every Tuesday morning when he's on, so I hear him a lot.
Well, that's good. Hey, Jim, now you've roughed and you've coached. So what's your take on all the stuff we've been talking about?
Well, I coached a CYO team up at St. Paul, which my brother and a bunch of his classmates were on, and That was about the time I was taking the course of refereeing and stuff, and we had went to Port Clinton, and yeah, it was, the word hose. Yeah, it definitely applied here because we ended up getting 7 technicals that night.
Wait.
Kept
We did, or was that you? Did you get 7 technicals?
No. Several players on my team got teased. I got a couple because I told them I'll do the talking. You guys just shut up and get over there. Well, found out later that a couple of players that shouldn't have been out in the court, they caught them somehow. And I don't like to do it, but when you do something like that to me, I don't get mad. I get even, but I give you interest so you won't want to do it again. Well, when Port Clinton came to Norwalk, I told the boys, I says, we're going to full court press, and we're not going to stop. If you're tired, you better have your hand up. I'm going to get another person in. We scored 100 points in that game, and I think we sent the message. I don't condone it, but something pushed me the wrong way. And when you get 7 technicals, because I was saying to the kids that you can't do this. I was pretty sure at the time I knew what I was talking about, even though I might have had 2 or 3 years under my belt. But there you go. And would I do it again today? No,
So
probably not.
So you're unapproachable as a coach.
Oh no.
Also unapproachable as a ref. Is that what you're?
No, that's you. You're unapproachable. We have proof of that. Right, Don?
Oh shit. Hey Don.
Yeah. See?
7. Look, Don. 7 technicals. What's that tell you? I don't think I've given 7 technicals in my entire life.
Played at Fremont Ross with.
Oh God.
That JV basketball game. Oh, that's a story not in the book. We're going to have to tell that one sometime.
Yeah.
Oh, that's definitely
that was a night, and the after game too. It was.
Oh my God.
I just got a bulletin here over the wire. I don't know if this will make it, but of course, anybody's an Ohio State fan, anybody that lives in Ohio know about the song "Hang On, Sloopy."
Sure.
By the McCoys originally. Lead singer Rick Derringer passed away at 77 today.
Oh,
I saw when they played down at Ohio State. There were, I think, was it a spring game? Might have even been when they were toasting the national champions, not this group, but the previous group, and the band was there, and you know how sometimes old rockers are doing more moving than they should be.
Oh yeah,
I was waiting for him to fall down or whatever. But the guy that sang "Hang On, Sloopy" way back in the '60s, Rick Derringer, has passed away at 77.
But
that's all I got for this one.
Well, you know that Ohio State's won both the inaugural series for national championships. They won the BCS when that was the initial, and then they won the playoff, the very first one. Yeah. There's only one that's won the one. So, all right. Hey, now speaking of our book, now obviously this other story isn't in the book. Our book is still available out on Amazon. You can get it in hardback, paperback, and ebook, and it's available today. And if you it'll take a couple days to get it because they have to print it and get it to you. If you can't wait, you can go to the Common Good and grab it today. I believe they have 3 or 4 copies. They're going to get some more as we ramp up here for Father's Day, which is in 2-3 weeks, I believe, something like that. And we will have a special price for that. We just haven't gotten around to that just yet. So as we're closing out tonight, guys, Don, do you got anything to close out with? Jimmy?
Quickly, if you're going to go on Amazon, try to get to the Kindle store first, and then put Officials Tales book in there, and it should take you to it. If you can't find the Kindle store, write book, Officials Tales, or, because it's the easiest name to remember, Rick Hall, author, Officials Tales, and that should get you there.
Oh yeah.
You can put my name or Jim's in the space there, but
You know.
Rick's name's easiest to remember when you're.
The
when you're
Tales,
shopping.
though, is Tales.
Correct.
Sure, that's because it's
Like
a
a
book.
story.
Yeah.
Not
Right.
like
Well, Three Blind Mice, you think Tales, Tails. And
Well,
I'm
that's
not that
true.
great on spelling.
Huh. Imagine
Okay, so
that.
when you flip a coin, Jim. Oh, wait a minute. You didn't do football.
He didn't do
I
football.
was say heads or tails. What tails you looking at?
Yeah, it's hard to tell with that guy.
Right,
Anyway,
right.
as we
You see
we're
what I
closing
got to
out
put
today-
up with, right?
Hey, one of these
Yeah.
nights I'm going to bring you my flipping coins out.
Hey, he's got some. There's some pretty. He's got this giant one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really does. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Heavy as hell. It's
Yeah,
funny
I
as
might
hell.
have given some of the other ones away, but
Yeah.
Anyway, as we close tonight, I want to say thank you and for watching our crazy show and putting up with us, and a special thank you from Chef Boyardee. He says, "Grazie."
that's
To the
it.
followers for watching our show and buying our
Manju.
book,
Ciao.
Manju.
and for getting my sauce just right. Molto bella. God
Manja.
bless and take care, everybody.
Manja.
We'll see you next time.